Okay, so this is part two. I'm going to take my planner and walk you through how I've written my draft so far. So I'm going to start off by talking about the skin as the basic definition of flesh. I wish I could find my cursor. There you are. So I'm going to show you this, and then I'm going to take you to the outside, and then you'll hear me shift into the inside. And that's about as far as I've gotten so far. So let me show you what I have. As always, it's much longer than it needs to be, so I'm working on cutting it back. But here's how I've written mine. Once again, you'll notice every time I use my word flesh, I'm going to italicize it, and I have a lot of short, choppy paragraphs, and I'm trying to have fun with it. So here I've written, flesh is skin. My main personal flesh, why did I say main? My personal flesh is a patchwork of slight tan on my arms and pasty white hidden under my clothes. Flesh is our largest and most visual organ. Therefore, it's how we judge ourselves and others. Flesh is our surface area, our facade. From a distance, our flesh may appear flawless. Much closer, our flesh is blemished with moles, hairs, scars. Flesh, I didn't italicize it, flesh can be vulnerable. Flesh may be cut and it may bleed, but flesh heals. That's the wonder of the human body. After all, it may be only a flesh wound. But sometimes flesh leaves traces of those wounds. Flesh scars tell tales of the damage to the skin, much like a tattoo or flesh art paints the skin. Flesh can be proud. The culture seems to encourage the exposing of flesh. Shakespeare's brash young Capulet brags about his own manhood. I'm a pretty piece of flesh. When we arrive, we are here, present, in the flesh, a phrase spoken often about an unexpected arrival, like Lazarus or a bad soap opera villain. Victor was killed off 3 seasons ago, but alas, he's back, in the flesh. Flesh is tangible. Flesh is how we touch and connect with others. Politicians often press the flesh, quickly moving through the crowd, shaking hands with potential voters. The flesh is touched, but never deeper than the surface. Flesh is surfacey, trivial, unimportant, like the fleshings of an animal's hide. It is discarded without thought, as in the phrase to make fish of one and flesh of the other. We make choices arbitrarily without ever considering what lies beneath the surface. Yet beneath the surface is the flesh of a fruit, a plant, an animal. Citrus fruits are fleshy fruits. We eat the flesh of an animal. Even as humans, we are but flesh and blood. Ask any doctor, what is not bone is flesh. So like I said, I have to cut out some because I'm a little long that first part. And just in reading it, I can tell there's some things I definitely want to change. I'm just going to get you in the mind of what Jeffrey thinks. Why can Jeffrey's cursor not make this thing go up? All right. So one thing I noticed when just reading it is I like the beginning. I think it's fun, but you'll notice I keep using the word flesh over and over and over again, but it's the same definition. And so if I were going to tighten this, I need to tighten up this beginning. Sometimes you get so married to an idea, you're like, oh, I can't change that. And part of being a mature writer is taking some criticism, sometimes your own criticism, saying, look, like that's great and it's good writing, but you're not really extending this. You're just repeating the same definition over and over and over again. From flesh all the way to flesh wound, I've really only introduced 2 definitions. That's it. Flesh as a skin and a flesh wound. So why do I have to keep repeating all of this? So I'm going to try to clean this up a little bit because even though I like it, it's just maybe too much. And there's some really interesting points here that I might be able to pull out at the end of my essay, but I don't necessarily have to belabor all this at the very beginning. So think about the beginning as being a little tighter. If this is the most common definition, I shouldn't have to rewrite a whole lot because everyone's nodding their heads thinking, yeah, I know what flesh is. They want to be more interested in these other things that I start showing later. So that's one major criticism I have for my own writing. Look at me moving my cursor now. After this, it kind of cruises along. Sometimes it's a little wordy, and I know that about myself. So I've got to tighten some things up. I have some long-winded ways of saying something. You're like, dude, just cut to the chase. And that's what I want you to do. I want you to have fun with it, but I also want you to just blow the reader away with how many definitions you have. Like, wow, that was really cool. And this one's not cool yet. It's getting there. It's not cool yet. All right, that's all. So what I want you to do is take your planner and now begin building those body paragraphs. What I wanted to point out then is, let's Seriously? What in the wide world of sports? What I wanted to point out was I like using this word yet, just because I think it shows. What was that all about? I like it because it shows sort of like I've shifted from the outside, the surface, to now below the surface. So you can kind of hear this transition in this essay. All right, that's all.